My name's Ethan Hayes. I'm 27, a white guy scraping by in Manhattan as a low-level creative staffer at a nonprofit media institute. The job isn't glamorous, mostly drafting social media posts and editing videos for policy campaigns, but it gives me that rare feeling like I'm doing something that matters, even if the paycheck barely covers my tiny walk-up apartment in the East Village. I share it with a rotating cast of roommates, but mostly I keep to myself. Gym in the mornings, cheap takeout at night, and the occasional weekend hike upstate to clear my head. Life's steady, if a little lonely. No big dreams of climbing the ladder. I'm just happy not to be stuck in some soul-crushing corporate gig. That Friday night started like any other decompression session. My best friend Dylan Reed, who's in sales at a tech startup, dragged me to our usual spot, a dimly lit bar in Midtown, the kind with worn leather booths, exposed brick walls, and a bartender who remembers your order. It's a hangout for office drones and media types unwinding after a long week. We grabbed a corner table away from the crowd. Dylan ordered his craft beer, and I went for a cheap bourbon on the rocks. Nothing fancy, just enough to melt the tension from another day of endless revisions and budget cuts. We were mid-conversation about some dumb office drama, Dylan complaining about his micromanaging boss, when the door swung open with a gust of cool autumn air. A woman burst in, scanning the room like she was hunting for an exit rather than a drink. My stomach dropped when I recognized her. Sophia Lang, 39, the executive project director at my institute. She's a force in policy media circles, sharp, unyielding, with a reputation for being ice cold. I've seen her fire people with a single, piercing stare during meetings. She's the kind of woman who commands boardrooms, always in tailored suits, her dark hair pulled back severely, exuding control. I've avoided her as much as possible. As a junior staffer, I'm basically invisible to her. But tonight, she looked off. Her usually impeccable hair was tousled, her coat buttoned unevenly, and her eyes darted around with a wild edge I'd never seen. She spotted me, or maybe just the empty seat at our table, and made a beeline straight for us. Dylan raised an eyebrow, but before he could say anything, she was there, her hand clamping down on my wrist like a vice. Her fingers were ice cold, trembling slightly. She leaned in close, her breath hot against my ear in the noisy bar. "Drive me home, or you lose your job." I froze, the words hit like a slap. Lose my job? For what? I hadn't done anything wrong. My mind raced. Had I screwed up some assignment? Missed a deadline? But her voice wasn't the usual steel. It cracked at the edges, laced with something desperate. Up close, I could see the panic in her eyes, those sharp blue eyes that usually slice through bullshit, now wide and unfocused. Her grip tightened, not in anger, but like she was holding on for dear life. Dylan coughed awkwardly, shifting in his seat. Ethan? You know her?" I nodded faintly, my mouth dry. The bar hummed around us, laughter from a group nearby, glasses clinking, some indie rock playing low, but it all faded. Sophia's face was inches from mine, her perfume mixing with the faint scent of rain from outside. "Please," she whispered, so quiet only I could hear. It wasn't a command anymore, it was a plea. I glanced around instinctively, and that's when I saw him. In the far corner, nursing a scotch, a blond man in an expensive suit, maybe mid-40s, with a smug grin curling his lips. He was watching us, his eyes locked on Sophia like a predator who'd just spotted prey. He raised his glass slightly as if toasting some private victory. My gut twisted. Who the hell was this guy? "Don't look at him," Sophia hissed, her voice barely audible over the bar's din. "Stand up. Put your arm around me. Act like you're my date." Her nails dug into my skin, but it wasn't painful, just urgent. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Why me? Why here? But something in her eyes, the raw fear beneath the facade, made me move. I stood, sliding my arm around her waist as casually as I could manage, though my hand shook. "Let's go," I muttered, loud enough for nearby ears. Dylan stared, mouth agape, but I ignored him. We weaved through the crowd, her body pressed close to mine, rigid with tension. Heads turned, whispers followed, but I kept my eyes forward, guiding her toward the door. The blond man watched us the whole way, his smile never fading. As we pushed outside into the biting Manhattan wind, the streetlights casting long shadows on the wet pavement, Sophia finally exhaled, her shoulders slumping. She pulled away slightly, but not completely, her hand still clutching my sleeve. The city's hum, taxis honking, pedestrians rushing, filled the silence between us. I turned to her, the cold air snapping me back to reality. "Ms. Lang, what the hell is going on?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced back at the bar's door, as if expecting it to burst open. When she finally met my eyes, the iron mask she'd worn for years was cracking. "Just get me out of here," she said, her voice breaking for the first time. And in that moment, under the neon glow of the city, I saw the unbreakable Sophia Lang on the verge of shattering. I hailed a cab, my mind reeling, knowing I'd just stepped into something way over my head. Monday morning hit like a freight train. My head throbbed from a restless weekend. Replaying that bar scene over and over, Sophia's trembling hand on my wrist, the smug bastard in the corner. I barely slept, half expecting a call from HR or worse. Dylan had blown up my phone with questions. "Dude, what was that? Your boss? Spill." I dodged him, saying it was nothing, but inside I was spiraling. What if she fired me anyway? What if that guy showed up at work? I dragged myself to the Institute, a sleek glass building in Chelsea, coffee in hand, bracing for the axe. As soon as I logged in, my phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "My office, now." No pleasantries, just that. My stomach knotted. I took the elevator up to the executive floor, the one with the polished hardwood and abstract art on the walls. Her door was ajar. I knocked lightly and stepped in. She was at her desk, immaculate as ever. Tailored blazer, hair pinned back, no trace of Friday's chaos. But her eyes looked tired, shadows under them that makeup couldn't fully hide. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. No warmth, but no ice either. She slid a folder toward me. Inside, a formal apology letter on Institute letterhead, signed by her, acknowledging inappropriate involvement of a subordinate in personal matters. Attached was a transfer request to another department, policy research with a 10% raise. "This should make things right," she said, her voice even professional. "You'll report to a new supervisor, no questions asked." I stared at the papers, my pulse steadying. Relief washed over me. She wasn't firing me, but something felt off. This was too clean, too tidy. I closed the folder without signing. "Ms. Lang, about Friday. The guy in the bar. Who was he?" She leaned back, crossing her arms, her expression tightening. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared out the window at the Hudson River glittering below. Then, with a sigh that seemed to deflate her, she spoke. "His name is Julian Hart. We were engaged once. The media called us a power couple, him in finance PR, me in policy media. It looked perfect on paper." Her voice cracked slightly, but she cleared her throat. 6 months ago, I found out he was cheating. Not just once. A full affair with someone half my age. He didn't even hide it well. Ended things brutally, said I was too cold, too focused on work to love anyone properly. She paused, her fingers tracing the edge of her desk. But he didn't stop there. He started showing up at events with her, making sure I saw, whispering to mutual contacts, painting me as the villain, the ice queen who drove him away. It's been 6 months of this. Stalking, really. Not physical, but emotional. He wants me to break to prove he won. I listened, piecing it together. The panic in her eyes Friday night, the way she'd clung to me, it wasn't about control, it was survival. In our world of policy media, reputation is currency. One scandal and doors slam shut. Why not report him? Get a restraining order? I asked gently. She laughed bitterly. And admit weakness in this industry? No. I'd be the hysterical ex while he plays the victim. I've handled it alone until Friday. He cornered me at the bar, taunting me about being alone. "I saw you," and I panicked. She met my eyes, vulnerability flickering. "I'm sorry, Ethan. You didn't deserve to be dragged in." I nodded, processing. She wasn't the monster everyone whispered about. She was human, cornered. Something shifted in me, a mix of empathy and resolve. What if you didn't have to handle it alone? The words came out before I could stop them. She frowned. "What do you mean?" I leaned forward. "That guy, Julian, he gets off on seeing you isolated, right? What if we took that away? Pretend we're together. Show up at events as a couple, make him think you've moved on, that he's irrelevant. Her eyes widened. That's absurd. You're my employee. The age difference alone. I held up a hand. Temporary, no strings, no threats. Just a shield. You call the shots. If it gets weird, we stop. She stared at me, weighing it. I could see the conflict. Pride versus desperation. Why would you do this? What's in it for you? I shrugged. Honestly, nothing. But I've seen you fight for causes at work. Real change. If this helps you fight back, I'm in. Silence stretched. Then slowly she nodded. Fine, but ground rules, professional boundaries, no real involvement. And if it blows up, I take the fall. We spent the next hour sketching a plan. First date at an upcoming fundraiser. Practice small talk, hand-holding, the basics to sell it. As I left her office, the weight of it hit me. This wasn't just helping, it was stepping into her world. A world of power plays and hidden scars. But for the first time, I felt like I was doing something that mattered beyond a screen. After that first performance at the fundraiser, a glitzy event in a downtown hotel ballroom filled with donors and policy wonks, everything clicked into place smoother than I'd imagined. Sophia and I arrived separately as planned, but when I spotted her across the room in a sleek black dress, I felt a genuine pull. Not just the scripted one. I approached, offered my arm with a casual smile, and she took it, her touch light but steady. We mingled. Small talk with colleagues, laughs at bad jokes, a few posed photos that would surely circulate. Julian was there, lurking in the shadows with his arm candy, but he kept his distance, his smug grin fading when he saw us together. By the end of the night, as we slipped out to a waiting cab, Sophia whispered, "It worked." He didn't come near me. I nodded, but inside a small thrill hummed, not from the act, but from how natural it felt. We ramped up from there. Over the next few weeks, our dates became routine. A gallery opening here, a networking mixer there. Each time we refined the act. Sophia learned to lean into my shoulder during conversations, her laughter more genuine. I got better at the little touches, brushing her hair back, holding her hand under the table. It was all calculated. Eye contact to sell the chemistry, shared glances to ward off Julian's stares. And it paid off. He started showing up less, his taunts reduced to distant glares. Sophia seemed lighter at work, her Ice Queen facade cracking just a bit in meetings where she'd nod at me approvingly. But as the charade went on, the lines blurred for me. It wasn't sudden. It crept in during the quiet moments, like after one event when we grabbed late-night coffee at a diner to debrief. She opened up about the pressure of her role, how being a woman in policy media meant always proving twice as much, never showing weakness. People like Julian thrive on that, she said, stirring her tea absent-mindedly. I shared my own frustrations, feeling stuck in entry-level limbo, wondering if I'd ever make a real impact. Our talk stretched longer each time, veering from strategy to personal stories. I found myself looking forward to them, not just as rehearsals, but as connection. Sophia started to soften too. I saw glimpses, a real smile when I cracked a joke, a lingering touch when we parted ways. It culminated one evening when she invited me to her place in Brooklyn Heights for practice before a big gala. "We need to be more natural," she texted. Her brownstone was nothing like I'd pictured. Warm wood floors, a cozy kitchen with herbs on the windowsill, bookshelves crammed with worn novels from Austen to modern thrillers. No sterile executive pad. It felt lived in, human. A framed photo on the mantel was face down. I didn't ask, but I suspected it was Julian. We started with dinner. Takeout Thai, nothing fancy. As we ate at her kitchen island, the conversation flowed easy. She asked about my family. "You seem grounded. What's your secret?" I told her about growing up in a small Midwest town, my parents' divorce, how it taught me to value stability over flash. She nodded, then shared her own. A high-achieving upbringing that pushed her into law school, then media, leaving little room for anything else. "I've always been the one who fixes things," she said quietly, "but sometimes I wonder if anyone's ever fixed me." The mood shifted when we moved to the living room for dance practice. The gala had a formal waltz segment. I put on some slow jazz from my phone and we started awkwardly, her hand stiff in mine. But as we moved, she relaxed, her body syncing with mine. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. Without thinking, as we swayed, I murmured, "I like being near you." The words slipped out, honest and unscripted. She froze, pulling back like I'd burned her. Her eyes hardened. "What did you say?" I stammered. I, I mean, in the moment. For the act. But she stepped away, crossing her arms. "This is a task, Ethan, the arrangement. Don't confuse it." Her voice was sharp, the Ice Queen back in full force. I felt my face heat. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" She cut me off. "Just go. We'll handle the gala separately." I left, the door clicking shut behind me like a finality. Had I ruined everything? Or was she pushing back because she felt it too? From then on, we avoided each other. At work, it was emails only, curt updates on events, no more late-night texts. I threw myself into projects, trying to forget the warmth of her home, her laugh. The gala came and went. We showed up, played the part from afar, but the spark was gone. Julian smirked from the sidelines, sensing the crack. I wondered if the plan was crumbling. Then the bomb dropped. Monday morning, my inbox pinged with an anonymous email, CC'd to the entire institute. Subject line: inappropriate relationship between senior management and junior staff. Attached: photos. Us holding hands at the fundraiser. Dancing in her living room? How? A blurry shot of her leaning on me outside a venue one night. My heart sank. Who took these? Julian, obviously. But how did he get inside access? I rushed to Sophia's office, but she was already there, staring at her screen like a statue. The room felt suffocating. Colleagues whispered in the halls, eyes darted our way. "This is it," she said flatly, not looking at me. "We're exposed." I stood there, stunned. Our fake shield had become a real target, and now we were being hunted. The boardroom summons came before lunch. An email from the Institute's chair. "Immediate meeting. Executive suite." My hands shook as I read it, the anonymous photos still burning in my mind. Sophia and I hadn't spoken since the email blast. Her office door stayed shut, mine buried in busy work to avoid the stares. The whole floor buzzed with whispers. "Did you see those pics? Lang and the kid from Creative?" I felt exposed, like every email ping was another nail in the coffin. But I suited up, my one decent blazer wrinkled from the closet, and headed up. Sophia was already there when I arrived, standing by the window in a sharp black suit like armor plated over her frame. She looked unbreakable, but I caught the subtle tells, fingers drumming faintly on her arm, jaw clenched a fraction too tight. I sat beside her at the long oak table, my hands clammy. The board filed in. 5 senior members, mostly older men in ties, plus the HR director, a stern woman named Elaine. No sign of Julian Hart, but his shadow loomed. Those photos screamed his handiwork, stalkerish, calculated. The chair, a gray-haired exec named Harlan, cleared his throat and dove in. "We've all seen the email. Explain." Sophia didn't flinch. She laid it out methodically, her voice steady as steel, the bar encounter, her panic, pulling me in as a buffer against her ex's harassment. "It started as a ruse," she said, eyes level. "A way to neutralize his emotional games without escalating publicly, but feelings developed. We plan to self-report to HR this morning." She slid forward a prepared statement, dated today. The room tensed. Elaine frowned. "This reeks of impropriety. A superior using a subordinate? Power imbalance aside, it's unprofessional." One board member, a balding guy named Vickers, leaned forward. "Ms. Lang, you've built your career on integrity. This affair? It undermines everything." Sophia's face paled, but she held firm. "It wasn't an affair. It was mutual, and we were addressing it." I couldn't stay silent. My chair scraped as I stood, adrenaline surging. If the roles were reversed, if a male exec was here explaining the same thing, no one would call it a bay boy. It'd be a personal matter or handled internally. But because it's her, a woman in power, suddenly it's scandalous? The room went quiet. Vickers blinked, caught off guard. Harlan shifted uncomfortably. Elaine pursed her lips but didn't counter. Sophia glanced at me, surprise flickering in her eyes. Gratitude, maybe. They deliberated in hushed tones while we waited outside, the hallway air thick with tension. When they called us back, Harlan delivered the verdict. No terminations, but strings attached. I'd transfer departments immediately to outreach, away from Sophia's projects. She'd face increased oversight, quarterly reviews, no solo decisions on personnel. And the Institute's reputation? We'll manage the narrative, Harlan said grimly. But your standing takes a hit, Ms. Lang. Tread carefully. We left the building in silence, the weight of it crushing. Outside, the Manhattan streets blurred with lunchtime crowds, but Sophia didn't head back to her car. Instead, she flagged a cab. Get in, she said, her voice tight. I hesitated. Where? Away, I need air. We sped north, traffic thinning as we hit the highway toward the Catskills. She stared out the window, arms crossed, saying nothing. 2 hours later, we pulled up to a small cabin, rustic, tucked in the woods, with a porch overlooking a foggy valley. My escape, she muttered, unlocking the door. Inside, simple furnishings, a stone fireplace, photos of hikes and old friends on the walls. No sign of work, just peace. She collapsed onto the couch, head in hands. I almost lost it all. Her voice broke, the first crack. I sat beside her, unsure. We're still here. She looked up, tears welling, tears from the unbreakable Sophia Lang. Not the job. Not the title. I was so scared of losing you in the fallout. The dam burst. She sobbed, shoulders heaving. I pulled her close, her head against my chest, my arms wrapping around her like a shield. We're not lost, I whispered. This attack, it's not because we were wrong. It's because Julian can't stand seeing you happy, moving on without him. We sat like that as the sun dipped, the cabin growing dim. She pulled back eventually, wiping her eyes. I've spent my life being strong, alone. But with you, I don't want to be. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining. I love you, Ethan, not the plan. You. The words hung there, raw and real. No more pretending, no defenses. I cupped her face. I love you too, from the start, maybe. That night, in the quiet of the cabin, with wind rustling the trees outside, we let go. No rush, no fear, just us, finally honest. 3 months blurred by in a haze of adjustments. The scandal's echoes faded, not gone, just muffled under the daily grind. Whispers in the hallways turned to awkward nods. Colleagues stopped staring. I settled into my new role in outreach, pitching community partnerships instead of creative briefs. It was quieter, less high stakes, but I missed the old team's energy. And Sophia. We kept our distance at work, professional emails, brief hellos in the elevator. But outside, in stolen evenings, we rebuilt. No more pretending. This was real, fragile, and ours. The Institute managed the narrative, as Harlan put it. PR spin framing it as a personal matter resolved internally. Sophia's oversight lingered like a shadow. Extra reports, sidelong glances from the board. But she didn't bend. I won't apologize for loving, she told me one night over takeout in my cramped apartment. Not to them, not to anyone. I admired that fire, the way she reclaimed her space. And me? I stopped feeling ashamed of standing by her. The age gap, the power dynamic, it all felt irrelevant now. We'd survived the storm, that was proof enough. One crisp winter evening, as snow dusted the sidewalks, I texted her, "Meet me at Crown and Anchor, 8 p.m. The bar where it started. The dim lights, the worn stools, the hum of after-work chatter. I arrived first, nursing a bourbon at our old corner table, memories flooding back. Her desperate grip, the cold wind outside. When she walked in, my breath caught. No suit, no armor, just a simple wool sweater, jeans, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She looked softer, freer, like the weight of the last months had lifted. She spotted me and smiled. A real one, warm and unhurried. She slid into the booth across from me. "Remember this place?" I asked, my voice light but laced with meaning. She glanced around, a faint laugh escaping. How could I forget? The spot where I wielded my power to beg a stranger for rescue. Her eyes met mine, playful yet tender. "What are we doing here, Ethan?" I reached for her hand across the table. Full circle, no more running. She squeezed back, but before she could respond, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped. She opened it. Two plain white gold bands, simple and unadorned. No diamonds, no engravings, just elegant loops. "These aren't promises of forever," she said softly, her voice steady. "I can't guarantee that, not after everything. But they're a vow. I won't run anymore. From you, from us." I stared at the rings, emotions swelling in my chest. This wasn't a grand proposal, it was us. Honest, imperfect. I took one, sliding it onto her finger, then let her do the same for me. The metal was cool against my skin, but it felt right, grounding. "Me too," I said, my thumb tracing the band. "I'm all in. No more hiding." We sat there, hands linked, the bar's ambient noise fading into a comforting backdrop. No tears, no drama, just quiet certainty. We left soon after, stepping into the snowy night. Manhattan twinkled around us, holiday lights strung across streets, taxis splashing through slush, pedestrians bundled against the chill. We walked arm in arm, no destination, just wandering. The cold nipped at our faces, but her warmth beside me chased it away. We talked about the future, not grand plans, but small ones. Weekends upstate, maybe a joint project at work once the dust fully settled. "Julian's gone quiet," she said at one point, her breath fogging the air. "No more shadows." I nodded. "Good. But even if he wasn't, we'd handle it." As we reached her brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, the snow falling thicker now, she turned to me on the stoop. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerable yet strong. "Drive me home," she said, echoing that first night. But this time, no desperation, no threat, just a soft invitation, laced with choice. I smiled, pulling her close. "Always." Inside, the house welcomed us. The warm glow of lamps, the faint scent of her herbal tea. We shed our coats, kicking off boots in the foyer. In the kitchen, she put on the kettle for cocoa, while I stoked the fireplace. Simple rituals, but they felt profound now. As the mug steamed on the counter, our rings glinting side by side, she stood by the window, watching the snow blanket the street. Flakes danced under the street lamps, turning the world soft and silent. I came up behind her, draping a blanket over her shoulders. "Cold?" I asked. She leaned back into me, her head resting against my chest. "Not anymore." We stood like that, wrapped in quiet, the fire crackling softly. There are people who spend their lives pretending to be unbreakable just because no one's ever told them, "I'm here, don't tremble anymore."